Good evening. My name is Louis Powell. It's my pleasure to come before you once again on behalf of the Cook County Bar Association, the oldest.
That's right.
I like
That's
saying
right.
that. The oldest African American bar association in the world, established here in 1914. And I'm going to dedicate this show to the late, great Ronald Samuels, a man who was very dear to me, a former president of Cook County Bar,
Okay.
a great Kappa.
Okay.
And both of us are alphas. We can say that he was a great Kappa,
right.
a great attorney, and we consider him, at his time, the greatest attorney living. Well, to get on with our program, we have with us a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Carr, graduate of Northwestern.
Thank you very much.
Is that right?
Thank you very
A
much.
former board member of the Cook County Bar Association, president board member of Legal Services of Chicago.
Right,
Is that
LAF.
correct? Did I get that right? LAF.
LAF, right.
And today's topic is a very interesting topic. It's legal service organizations. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an interactive show. Our number is 312-7238-1900. I hope I got that right. 166-1060. 312-3738-1060. Did I get that right?
That's right.
And we want you to call in. This is a very important topic because a lot of folks cannot afford legal representation.
That's true.
Dr.
That's
Carr.
true. That's true.
And the Legal Services Organization are standing in the gap to
Right.
provide legal services for people that cannot afford it.
Right.
Okay. Attorney Carr, what is a non-for-profit legal service organization?
Well, I think you basically said it already. I mean, those words. I mean, as you mentioned in your opening, not everyone can afford an attorney. And so legal services organizations help fulfill that gap to provide legal services for those that are either have low income or they're part of what we call a disadvantaged group as far as being likely to being discriminated against or abused. We're talking about people like veterans, elderly, immigrants who've been in the news quite a bit, and even women. So those are what we call, populations that need services, particularly if you're in an area where you have low income. So, today is just to bring some awareness about these various organizations. I am a private attorney, but I've interfaced with a number of these organizations, and I know their value. And today is just to provide more exposure to them. I'm not an expert on them. I just wanted to highlight a few for today's purposes, so we can just have some dialogue about what they do, what they don't do, and so you can reach out as another resource in getting your legal questions answered and addressed.
Again, our number is 312-738-1060. Attorney Carr, in terms of the type of service, because a lot of times these legal service organizations are folks' last stop.
Right.
In terms of, because
right.
everyone deserves some type of an attorney.
Right.
And
right.
you'd be surprised, a lot of times people may give up,
Right.
feel there's nowhere to
Right.
go,
Right.
and legal services, the different legal services organizations will step in
Right.
and give them quality representation and get some good results, because you're
Right.
dealing with some attorneys that are highly skilled.
Right, right. So, we could talk about some of the legal service organizations in a moment, but in general, you're right. These attorneys are well qualified, and even you have attorneys in large law firms, donating their time to provide pro bono services, which are services without any type of legal payment or charge expected. So there are a number of organizations that are out there. Just to start naming a few, we mentioned LAF, formerly known as the Legal Assistance Foundation of Metropolitan Chicago. Then you also have the Center for Disability and Elder Law. That's another one that I have some familiarity with. I've recommended clients there. And then also we have Cabrini Green Legal Aid. A lot of people are familiar with Cabrini Green Legal Aid. I also did some volunteer work with Cabrini Green Legal Aid. So, those are some of the probably ones you've probably heard about.
Attorney Carr, how about used to be Lawyers for Better Housing?
Yes, those I believe that still exists. There are a number of organizations that provide services in various spaces. Typically, they provide services in the area of housing, family law. If someone's looking for issues regarding, domestic violence. I mentioned immigration. We have problems with immigrants getting their rights adjudicated. They suffer from discrimination, wage issues. And then also you have, like I mentioned before, housing. And then even criminal aspects, when we talk about expungement and things of that nature, getting your records sealed or expunged.
That is critical. Can we talk about expungement for a little bit?
Sure.
You know, Attorney Carr, you elaborate because I think you know about it more than me. But ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you, if it's things happen in life,
That's true.
and
That's
if you're arrested and correct me if I'm wrong, and even convicted for certain offenses,
That's right.
it's very possible that you can get it expunged, meaning giving you an opportunity, to get
That's right.
employment. Could
That's
you
right.
speak on that a little bit?
Well, exactly. I know that our clerk of the circuit court, Dorothy Brown, actually holds an annual clinic, I believe each spring. It's either probably in the June time frame. Typically, it oscillates between the south side and other locations, south side and near south side. But it is an expungement clinic, and there you can provide, or you have access to attorneys that can provide information on how to review your case to determine if your case is qualifies for expungement or sealing or what they call alternate forms of relief. And so there are different criteria to determine if your record can be expunged, which means destroyed and not accessible. Sealing means that it's not available for public viewing by typical employees. It's usually for law enforcement, but generally speaking, it prevents it from being open to the public.
How about the divorce or child support?
What about those? Those you can't expunge those records.
No,
I mean,
no,
really
I'm
talking about
shifting to-
criminal.
I'm shifting to
Oh,
another
you're shifting to
subject.
another topic. Okay.
Because we want to give our audience a nice overview to the extent we have.
Right.
Is it possible if you have a divorce case or a child custody case to go to a legal services organization?
It all. Let me just finish. Let me just
Sure.
wrap up the expungement.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right. That's all right. The Cabrini Green Legal Aid, they're known for their work in supporting and expungement and sealing cases. So I think if you have an issue there, I would reach out to them. If you have issues finding a private attorney, I would say that would be your first stop because that's one of their strengths. They're actually one of the key players that participate in, like I said, the clinic that our clerk of the circuit court have. So I just want to finish that thought. Now,
you.
concerning domestic violence, you were talking about
Divorce or
child support.
Right.
Again, these various organizations was LAF or Cabrini Green Legal Aid. They really look at your income to determine your eligibility. So it really based on whether you meet certain eligibility guidelines as far as income for the number of people in your household. So they have a chart that they'll determine to see if you qualify for these free services or not. So it can be kind of competitive, but if you are able to, if you're persistent, there's an opportunity there to receive support.
That is great because Attorney Cocker, we both know there are a lot of folks out here that just don't have the means to hire an attorney.
That's right.
And
right.
in terms of divorce or child support, to a certain extent with child support, the state of Illinois may, under certain circumstances, represent you in terms of that.
Yes.
But still, if you can get an attorney, from a legal service organization, I think that'll put you in a good position
Yes.
as opposed to trying to go at it on.
Right.
And thank you for clearing up. I didn't mean to jump ahead.
That's all right.
Because
That's all right. That's all right.
expungement is a very critical thing.
Right.
Because again, just coming back to it, in terms of employment, it just allows you to say no in terms of
Right.
a
Do you have
conviction
a
of
record?
arrest.
Right.
And
Right.
that could be the difference of you getting employment.
Right, and we all need employment. I mean, a job lifts you out of poverty. It can lift you out of poverty, and so we don't want to have any barriers to employment. And like I said, having your records expunged or sealed can be a good path to removing those barriers that can prevent you from getting the employment that you seek.
Very good. Now, forgive me, brother, 'cause I'm going to shift gears again.
Sure, that's
now,
why we're here.
In terms of, say, for example, I think Northwestern, where you graduated,
Okay.
fine law school, I believe that is the site of the clinic that is clears some individuals in terms of wrongful convictions.
Yes.
Is that considered a legal service organization?
I know that, first, let me just clarify. I went to Northwestern undergrad, not the law school, but undergrad. Okay. But There are various clinics at various schools, and I know that one, I believe, it could be part of either their law school or their journalism school. I'm not really sure of the details, but you do have universities and colleges that have clinics that do reach out to the public and offer services. So I didn't have that on my list of nonprofit organizations, but they do serve as another avenue for services. So definitely think about your DePauls in Chicago, your University of Chicago. They all have legal clinics. John Marshall. They also have. Thank you for bringing that up. They all these colleges also have legal clinics that can serve the public. Again, depending on your particular circumstance. As far as payment, it depends on their particular requirements. But they are another pool of resources besides the traditional nonprofit organizations. So thank you for bringing that up.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, the purpose of this is to inform you. This is an interactive program. Our phone number is 312-730-1060. 312-738-1060, because it's very important, because in this age of Googling, Brother Carl,
Yeah.
people have access to information.
Right.
If you can give, if ladies and gentlemen can get the key words, they can Google.
Correct.
Because I think,
Correct.
my time at John Marshall, in terms of the John Marshall Fair Housing Clinic, Brother Carl, you get a lot of folks that are frustrated because they don't know where to go.
Right,
And
right.
you're giving a brilliant overview
right,
of the different legal organizations out there,
Right.
and giving a nice overview in terms of type of legal services.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are just frustrated because they just feel they have no way to go.
So just speaking of Googling, you could Google LAF, the words LAF. You could Google Cabrini Green Legal Aid. You could Google John Marshall Law Clinic. These are all terms that you could Google to see what their services are. So a lot of things that we're talking about, there's more information on the websites of the particular organizations, where they actually go into detail about the level of services, the requirements, and there's also phone support for some of these organizations. Many of them have traditional phone support where you can just call in. So even if you can't Google, if you have the phone numbers, you can call in and seek to schedule an appointment. I will admit, it can be competitive in terms of trying to get through some of these phone banks.
That's true.
But again, you have to be persistent,
Right.
no matter what you do. I mean, because you talk about free or low cost, you have to realize there's going to be a demand on those types of services.
Absolutely. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I can't emphasize enough. You have to be somewhat patient
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
dealing with organizations, because they're understaffed. A lot
Right.
of times they're understaffed because the need of free legal help is so great
Right.
that they have a tendency to sometimes get a little bit overwhelmed.
Right.
And you have to be patient in terms of them getting back to you.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, so you don't be frustrated, because sometimes, Attorney Carr, folks that are in need of help get frustrated
Right.
in the system when they try to utilize the system and give up. Our message today is don't give up.
Right. And just on that point too, when I mentioned, going through some of their phone banks and phone lines, the people that do get through, the organizations want to spend quality time on these cases. So they aren't looking for quantity. They're looking to provide quality representation. So if your case is represented, you can expect high quality service, from what I've experienced and seen in the past based on my interface with these organizations. So you will receive quality support, but with any legal problem, unfortunately the wheels of justice do not turn quickly.
Absolutely.
They do turn, but not, but not necessarily quickly. And so even with any legal problem, you have to be patient.
And when I said overwhelmed, maybe that didn't come out right. What I'm saying is that they get a lot of phone calls.
Yes.
And most of these
Yes.
organizations are very good about checking the voicemail and checking email
Yes.
and keeping track of who calls them.
Right.
And so again, I'm asking our audience, our viewership, to to be patient. To leave your message, a detailed message, but not a extremely long message.
Right.
So they can have a means of contacting you back,
Right.
and then eventually somebody will get back to you.
Right. And just realize different organizations have different protocols for telephone support. Some will allow you to leave messages, and some will just have a window when you can call in without necessarily being able to leave a message. And if you get through, then you're provided the support and someone will contact you later. So they may have different levels of support where somebody will take the initial call and say somebody else who's a specialist in that particular area will contact you later.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, the number is 312-738-1060. You're welcome to call. Attorney Kai, now this may be a little bit off subject, but it's still on subject. In terms of the environment, we're not, but we do know on the local level, the state level, as well as the national level, funding, it appears to me, funding for legal services organization is down.
Well, it's always a challenge. So I believe the president just signed off on the latest budget, and so within those budgets are funding for what they call the Legal Services Corporation, and LAF is one of the recipients of funding from the government. Some of these other organizations, I can't really say what their level of funding is or how much, but you do have some legal aid organizations that do receive government funding, and it is part of these budgets. So if these federal budgets are cut, then you're right. That cuts the level of services that organizations can provide, because typically the main resource in these organizations are people. So you cut the funding, unfortunately you have to reduce the staffing. And so that's why you're right. It's absolutely important to have the government funding, but then also, if you have the means, also contribute to the organization. Donate money.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So, but the other thing I want to mention is that, many of these organizations are also looking to affect change as far as changing laws that are discriminatory, making policy recommendations so we have better treatment of individuals who may be subject to evictions by a landlord that has a history of discriminatory practices. In some cases, if the legal aid organization is able to, they may try to affect policy in that area so that we can reduce the occurrence of these types of practices.
That is critical. That is critical because Attorney Carr, I'm glad you brought out the donation aspect. Ladies and gentlemen, we look at these organizations, and let's be frank, these organizations are serving poor people and a lot of times people of color.
Right.
If we're just going to have to be honest about it.
Right.
And we really do need for the community to step up in terms of making donations on an organization-wide as well as the individual.
Right.
You'd be surprised. $5 times a lot of people is a lot.
It adds up.
It adds up.
It adds up.
And when you're really thinking about it, you're making an investment in your future.
Right.
Because we really need the private donations to step up.
Right.
Because it's been an uphill battle for a long time. I think it started with the Reagan administration in terms of this downward spiral in terms of federal funding for legal service organizations. And it leaves a lot of legal service organizations scrambling for the same dollars, which is dangerous. Not the non-for-profit world is a tough world.
It is a tough. I mean, it says not-for-profit, so a lot of the funding comes from donations, whether it's individual, whether it's from government. If you look at the recent budget problems that we had in Illinois, that affected a number of legal aid organizations that if they were smaller, and they were dependent on state money coming in, and those state checks weren't coming in for months to, say a year, you can't operate.
That'll kill you. Right,
that will kill you. You can't operate an organization like that if you don't have money coming in. And you expect it to, so you can pay your employees. So that's all of this is tied together. So there is some organization funding issue behind what the mechanics of these organizations, but overall, I would say they are a good resource for you to take advantage of today. So we implore you to do that. I wanted to just say a few things about the Center for Disability and Elder Law, because that one. It's also a nonprofit organization, but its audience, as you can tell by the title, focuses on individuals with permanent disabilities and also those that are at least 60 years or older. And there's a lot of elder abuse out there. A lot. And so this particular organization can help help address some of those issues, particularly, individuals in that particular population, whether they're, of that age group or, have a disability. I mean, I think, we need to look at these resources and say, hey, this may be a way to get an opportunity for support, whether it's free or low cost. And so we need to take advantage and explore that. So elder abuse is real.
It's definitely weird.
It's real.
Would nursing home abuse fall under that topic?
Well, that's more or less, it could, but with that one, that seems like more of a tort issue where you're going to sue somebody, and it could, but that typically may be more attractive to a private attorney because because of the lawsuit in there, you're going to be suing for damages, whereas typically with an elder abuse, you're trying to stop the perpetrator. And not necessarily sue for damages, because that's if you think if you think there's an individual that's suffering from abuse in a nursing home, definitely reach out to these organizations as well, because they can also refer you to other resources. So I don't mean to say don't do it. I'm just saying that may not be under the purview of the Center for Disability and Elder Law, but you can always explore that topic with them and ask for a referral.
Attorney, I want to bring you back to a topic that you touched upon, but I'm going to bring you back to it.
Okay.
In terms of the affecting change?
Yes.
Or as we say, change agent?
Yes.
Or some people say agent for change.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
President Obama was a change agent.
Change agent.
A community organizer. Can you step back, a little bit and hit on that a little bit? And when I say hit a bit, that means I have the right terminology, but it is very important that we have these organizations, because these organizations are the type of organizations that have lawyers that are not afraid to push the envelope.
Right. And what I mentioned before, that some of these organizations, they have attorneys that are offering their legal services pro bono, and they could be from large law firms, or they can be from companies, or they could be from smaller law firms. I think any attorney would like to have an opportunity to work on a case that has significant impacts in policy and making a difference, because I think that's in the back of our mind, all of us went to law school to make a difference.
That's right.
And if we could change a law that would end discrimination in one particular form, or increase the opportunities for some disadvantaged group, I think we're all seeking for that particular case. Your case could be that case. And so I think that's one of the things that it's not the dominant theme of a lot of these legal service organizations, but if it's a definite outcome where there's been a pattern or practice of conduct that should be remediated through a change in law or policy, definitely I think these organizations will be looking to enact those policy changes through their recommendations to the particular legislators and policy leaders.
Absolutely, meaning i.e., ladies and gentlemen, you have to stay on top of your state legislators.
That's right.
Your state rep, your state senator.
Right.
You have to stay on top of your congressman.
Right.
By letting them know that you feel that they should be doing a better job to increase the funding for these organizations.
Right.
Because without these organizations, we're in trouble.
That's right.
We're in trouble because, Attorney Kyle, you mentioned, which I think is quite a novel idea, it's not unusual for the top large law firms to loan people on a limited basis to the legal service organizations to work on some selected cases.
That's
you
right.
can get some very good results.
That's right.
But the fact of the matter is, we need funding to keep the staff people.
That's right.
To keep the attorneys.
That's right.
To keep the clerks.
Right.
To keep the paralegals. Because without that, the attorneys are nothing.
That's right.
You need that staff.
That's right.
Attorney Carr, we have approximately 1 minute to go. I'll leave the last word to you.
So I mentioned a few organizations. There are many more. I mean, I could rattle off a list, but what I wanted to do is just sort of introduce the fact that there are nonprofit legal aid organizations out there, and you should open your mind to say, does my particular legal problem lend itself to a legal service organization? I can't afford a private attorney. If you can't afford a private attorney, you could at least maybe call one of the organizations for a referral, like the CCBA has a lower referral hotline. Cook County, the Chicago Bar Association has a lower referral hotline. Illinois State Bar Association have a lower referral hotline. You could take advantage of these hotlines and others to get some initial support. But we appreciate your participation today, and take advantage of the opportunity.
Well, Brother Carr, Attorney Carr,
Thank you.
a good man. We're gonna bring you back again, ladies and gentlemen. We're here trying to bring basic information. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Thank you. Have a good day.